answer the bell. Now let's go.
Welcome into Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint. I am Chris Yao. He is Mo Patton, and sporting the Main Street Sports Today two-tone blue today. Looking good. What a Thursday it has been. I have been to the mountaintop all the way to Hermitage today and back home to Columbia, but looking forward to another fantastic show that we have lined up. Mo, what's going on, man?
Well, I've not been to Hermitage.
Well, so consider yourself lucky.
I think that kind of puts me a few steps ahead of the game, actually.
Well, I did get free sauce though. I got some ribs sauce and a couple other sauces from our friends at Acme Feed and Seed. So
okay,
at least I got some free sauce out the deal.
There you go.
I don't know that it paid for my gas, but gas up there is super cheap, man. I paid $2.62 a gallon.
Hey, we were in Murfreesboro last night. We paid $2.55. So
see, you got to get out of Southern Middle Tennessee to get some decent gas.
Well, you definitely got to get out of Franklin. So
oh, there's no question. You can buying gas in Franklin is like you just feel like there's a guy holding a gun to your back and just saying pump.
As my dad once said when we pulled up to a pump, Jesse James carried a gun. You know, I mean,
at least you knew he was bad.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Justin, how you like that Jesse James reference? That is two in one in each show.
That's true. That is true.
You know, we had the rib sauce that I have is actually called James, and it's supposedly for Frank and Jesse. So,
well, you know, apparently they hold up there close to Barbara Mandrell's former spread up in northern Davidson County. So apparently there are local ties to the James brothers.
Well, see, it's all coming back. I didn't realize that they had some ties to Middle Tennessee, but apparently they do because they got barbecue sauce here. So I'm looking forward to trying it. I can tell you that. But well, we've got a good show, man. We've got, I guess we'll just call him Coach Jimmy Mack. Jim McDowell is going to join this show and talk about his hashtag BDP Lebanon Blue Devils, their Blue Devil pride. We'll talk to former Braves reliever and host of the 755 is Real podcast, Eric O'Flaherty. Major League Baseball moves are kind of starting to come down, so you really hope that the Atlanta Braves have something going on in the works. I know they're doing something, and you never know what AA is doing because nobody talks. I swear he holds the deals up to. I mean, if we're dealing and you leak it, we don't deal no more. Like, I mean, it's impressive how he's been able to keep this stuff on the hush.
Yeah, I mean, with the exception of the Matt Olson thing, because I guess that was just, for some reason, that was just an obvious move. I don't know, but, you know, short of that, everything that the Braves have done under Alex Anthopoulos has been shocking.
Yeah, I mean, you see a random tweet from the Braves, and you're like, whoa.
Where'd that come from?
Who knew? So yeah, it's really impressive what they've been able to do. We'll talk to Eric about that and some other moves around Major League Baseball. Lots of big ones over the last couple of days. So we'll get into that and much, much more. Pretty big news coming out of the TWSAA today, and we'll get to it here in just a second. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get into the results. And these are way too many results. That is yesterday's. So hold on. Don't copy that, Justin. We'll get into yesterday's results and today's schedule, and we'll do that on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
In girls basketball action yesterday, Lead Academy defeated Republic 38-22.
Don't know what happened in the boys' game.
Okay. Are these women? This women's game isn't from
all of this
yesterday.
is yesterday. Just the high school was the wrong ones.
Okay. Women's basketball action yesterday. Southern Illinois defeated Tennessee State 100-72. I think that was a day game because I think we talked about it yesterday.
We did.
Men's basketball, Tennessee defeated Eastern Kentucky 84-49. Vanderbilt, with a couple of free throws at the end, defeated Pittsburgh 75-74 at Memorial Gym. And the Memphis Grizzlies with a 123-102 win over the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Doubleheader basketball action tonight. Cheatham County hosting Greenbrier. These are all 6 p.m. tips for the girls, boys to follow. Kenwood is at Clarksville. East Hickman hosting Mount Pleasant. Watertown is at FC Boyd. Hunters Lane goes to Good Pasture. Harpeth is at home against Houston County. Clarksville Northeast is at Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Mount Juliet hosting Riverdale. Laverne goes to Rockville, and Lancaster Christian is at the Tennessee Heat. Wonder where do they play?
I don't know. It's a heck of a question.
So there you go. If let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Yeah, and girls basketball action at 5:00 tonight. St. Cecilia travels to Ensworth. Women's basketball tonight, Cumberland is at Freed Hardman. That's a 5:30 tip. Also at 5:30, UT Southern is at Bethel, and Cedarville is at Trevecca. At 6, Fisk plays at Lane College. Men's basketball action tonight, Cumberland's at Freed Hardman at 7:30. Back end of a doubleheader, as is UT Southern at Bethel at approximately 7:30, and Fisk at Lane at 8. On the ice, the Nashville Predators travel south, take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. That's a 6:00 puck drop on Bally Sports South, and that is your rundown.
Short, sweet, and to the point on that one, Mo.
But once we got it straight, yeah.
I'm glad we didn't go through all of those Tuesday scores. But so our top story today coming out of the TWSAA Board of Control meeting, and talk about shocking, because I'm not sure that anyone saw this even coming, especially to a vote, but apparently a unanimous vote approved. I'm going to call it NIL because that's the easiest way to explain it, but it's not really name, image, likeness.
It's really not name, image, likeness. It's a change to the amateur rule as it stands in the TWSAA bylaws, which is what the Legislative Council handles. And
essentially what this does is allow them to make money doing certain things as long as it's not in conjunction with a TWSAA event type thing.
As long as it's not in conjunction with a TWSAA event, as long as it's not, they are not representing their school. Specifically, reading from the change to Article 2, Section 18, which is the amateur rule of the TWSAA bylaws and goes into effect immediately. Students may receive payment for activities not related to performance, provided they are carried out in a manner that does not suggest or reasonably suggest the endorsement or sponsorship of the TWSAA school. The students' activities for which they are compensated may not include an image or likeness of the student in a uniform or other clothing or gear depicting the name or logo of the TSSAA member school the student is attending or has attended. No reference to TSSAA accolades or championships may be used in the student's activities for which they are compensated.
So you can't say Mr. Football Marcel Reed is hosting a passing camp.
You cannot
Well, I guess
say
you
Mr.
could. I guess you could because that's a Tennessee Titans thing. So I guess you could say that, but yeah, well,
That's going to get real gray real quick.
real quick, it just got real gray. My first thing. We're now in a gray area.
Yeah, you may have just violated it right then. Who knows?
And
But
maybe
what you
not.
can't say is NBA quarterback Marcel
Correct.
Reed is.
You cannot.
You cannot say that. And you can't use a picture of him in his NBA uniform.
I'm curious. Does that include since you can't have TSSAA member school sponsorship? Does that include facilities? Can I host a camp
At
if
NBA?
At NBA, if I'm Marcel Reed, can I host an indoor passing camp? At that facility?
You probably better do that thing at D1.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking you've got a better option, of doing it at, if you're a baseball player doing a hitting camp or something like that, doing it at the local city park, not your school.
Exactly. I mean,
That's
if you want to be sure to steer clear, you may just want to get with your local rec league or something like that and do that, and just rely on folks to know who you are rather than saying, the Columbia Academy's Bryant Baranek.
Sure. Yeah, this is, and that's why I it's not necessarily, I mean, it is a way to get into the NIL realm because you are using, if I have a picture of Marcel Reed and I put Marcel Reed passing camp, it's my name, image, and likeness that is promoting the camp and I can get paid for it, but that's not really what it is.
It's tiptoeing up to NIL.
Right.
It's not exactly NIL. It is allowing kids to take advantage of their skills and their notoriety athletically. But it's not.
If Jared Hall hosted a basketball camp, people would know
who Jared
Hall is.
Mm-hmm.
And
if
so,
he hosted it at a Lebanon Rec Center, but not at, Lebanon's gym, shouldn't be a problem with it.
Shouldn't be a problem at all. And should never have really been a problem. But I understand why it was, I guess.
And times have changed. I mean, we've gotten to a point where kids should be able to take advantage of their skills and their athletic notoriety. That hasn't always been thought to be the case, simply.
Now, worst case scenario. Let's worst case it. Let's say Kavaris Tears at Columbia Academy.
While he was at Columbia Academy. Mm-hmm.
We all knew from he was a sophomore when he committed to UT, if not before that. UT commit Kavaris Tears decides he wants to, he's doing a baseball camp. Well, what if, say, and I'm just throwing a name out there, please don't come at me. Let's say XYZ Academy. Let's say that. Mm-hmm. A booster or a donor at XYZ Academy says, hey, Kavaris, come to XYZ Academy and play baseball the next 2 years, and we'll have a summer camp where I'm going to pay you $20,000 to do this camp, whether anybody shows up or not. And all you got to do is put your name on the poster. Now that's worst case, but it's absolutely now legal under this definition. Am I wrong?
I don't believe you're wrong.
So
And I don't believe it's out of the realm of possibility.
I think there's a couple of schools out there that might be interested in this.
Whatever
Look,
your worst case scenario is, it's going to
somebody
get
will do it.
tested.
Yeah, somebody's going to test it. There's no
It's going to
question.
get tested. So, I mean, this is a Pandora's box because, somebody's going to push the envelope. It's human nature. It's athletic nature. Somebody wants to see how far you can take something, always.
And, Stephen
And
Hargis,
somebody, even with this new rule, somebody's going to be declared ineligible as a result of this.
that's almost a guarantee. I mean, that's about as close to a guarantee as you can get, I think.
Somebody's going to lose ineligibility over this.
Stephen Hargis tweeted, and I want to pull the tweet up because I don't want to get it wrong. But essentially what he said was there are a couple of times over the course of the TWSAA and his coverage of it that it feels different, like groundbreaking in terms of how it will affect statewide prep sports. Today reminds me of how it felt nearly 30 years ago when the D2 split was voted in at the state basketball tournament. Now, you having been here and covered all of those type things, is that what you're feeling like right now?
I feel like this is what's the word I'm looking for? This is a change on that scale. I mean, Stephen and I have been doing this for pretty close to the same amount of time, and I don't disagree with him on that assessment. This is a game changer.
That's what I'm saying. It's a huge move in the world of high school athletics.
It kind of brings the TSSAA into the 21st century in terms of its thinking. But again, I think it also opens a Pandora's box because you've got a lot of people out here who really care a lot about their high school athletics. And, I'm not going to get into calling any names or anything like that, but I have some specific situations in mind. But this is going to get challenged. And your hypothetical that you just threw out there, 20,000 may not be the number, but there will be something along those lines to come out of this. And somebody's going to have to make a decision as to whether or not it's allowable. Or because they are trying to get forgiveness rather than permission, somebody else is going to have to try to protect their eligibility after that scenario takes place.
After the fact. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that is tough.
Be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for. That is absolutely the truth. And so there you have it. That is a little bit into the world of what's going on at the TSSAA Board of Control meetings. There's a lot more coming out of it, and a lot of things that are far more tangible and probably impactful. But I do think this is going to be a hot topic, as most everybody's already got a column out. So there's that. But yeah, so we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll hand out some hardware to some Southern Middle Tennessee athletes and teams. We'll talk to Jim McDowell, Lebanon boys basketball coach, about the aforementioned Jared Hall on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe. And we'll get into much, much more right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. You guys stick around with us. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck yes, that'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Tennessee. Because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Welcome back in to Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton, and we are bringing you everything under the sun. From preps to pros, we've got you covered. Plenty of news to get to from all levels of athletics today, including preps and pros, and we'll get to, there he is, Coach Jim McDowell will join us here in just a moment. But before we get to him, Mo, let's hand out a little hardware to our folks here in Southern Middle Tennessee. And we'll start with our N2Win Life Team of the Week, Southern Middle Tennessee Team of the Week, presented by our friends at Custom Stone Handlers and Ned Rich. This one is headed up to South Williamson County.
South Williamson County, home of the Independence Eagle boys basketball team, picked up a couple of wins going to Cane Ridge, the Brandon Millerless Cane Ridge Ravens, and picking up a 76-59 victory. I mentioned to Mark Wilkins after that, they're a little easier to play without an SEC starter in their lineup. And then last Friday, they followed that up with a 79-43 win at home over a pretty good Rockvale team. So a couple of big wins for the Independence Eagles last week, our Southern Middle Tennessee N2Win Life Team of the Week. So,
and our Southern Middle Tennessee Bone & Joint Athlete of the Week, we're going to go to the mats.
Going to the mats, Landon DeSalle, Summit's junior 138-pounder, pinned his way through the Black Horse Invitational down at Houston High School in Germantown this past weekend. 5 pins, won the 138 championship, and was named Outstanding Wrestler of the tournament, and that's good enough for us.
Is that good? That sounds good.
That's pretty good.
Okay. I'm not a wrestling guy, but 5 matches, 5 pins sounds good.
Yeah, there you go. That's pretty much all you need to know right there.
Can you do much better? No, you can't. That's
You really
literally the
can't.
you can do.
Yeah.
So congratulations to those award winners, and we appreciate you guys submitting your athletes and teams for consideration. Please do so. You can do that mpatton@mainstreetmediatn.com. And who knows, maybe you will be next. We go now to Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe out in Chapel Hill. From the Heart Cafe, keeping you fed and happy, whether it be through breakfast outside in the breakfast barn. I say breakfast barn, that's what I'm calling it. It's a trailer, but it's nice. Or lunch with the best desserts and sandwiches that money can buy, or with catering. They'll keep you so happy. I promise you, you're going to want to go check them out. Go see Renee Hart at From the Heart Cafe out in Chapel Hill. Drive a little, eat a lot.
Nice. Nicely done.
And joined now by Jim McDowell or Coach Jimmy Mack on Twitter. Coach, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
I'm good. I've talked to John Wild many a morning when he's stopping there at that breakfast trailer to get some biscuits on his way into Summit. So
not surprising.
I know all about
if you're talking to John Wild, he's probably eating and you're probably talking about it.
100%.
or if he's not eating, he's either getting ready to eat or here's what's crazy is as much as he's up on meat and threes and that kind of thing, to look at him, you'd never know it. I mean, it's not like me, talking about food all the time. So
I think his height helps him on that. That's for sure. He hides it well.
Yeah, he does. Jim, your Blue Devils off to a 6-2 start now following Tuesday's win, spoiling the homecoming of Troy Bond and his Brentwood Bruins. But what do you like about the way you guys are rolling right now?
We've got 7 seniors, and about three of those guys have started since they were sophomores. So a lot of experience there. Obviously led by Jared Hall, who's a special player. He's averaging 31 and 10 right now. They're our first. We're actually 5-2 right now through our first 7 games. Bright spot for us has been another senior, Landon Ingalls, post player. He got some minutes last year, but he's really stepped up his game over the course of the offseason. He's averaging 14 and 8 right now. He's a 6'8" post kid inside, so he really utilized his offseason to get stronger and get in the weight room and really worked on his game. And so just had some other guys step up as well. Caden Baird, a senior point guard, has played well. Our quarterback, Jalen Abson's come back the last few ball games and starting to get his basketball legs under him. Senior guard Wyatt Bowling has also been a solid player for us, averaging about 8 a game. So we've got several guys that are contributing, and we've got a tough schedule that we've played thus far and will continue. But I do like it was good to get a good win on the road at Brentwood on Tuesday.
That was at Brentwood. I can't read. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
But, hey, you mentioned Jalen Abston, the quarterback from the football team, coming back and getting his basketball legs under him. And that's always a challenge when those guys, particularly when they play deep. Lebanon eliminated in the second round of the Class 6A state playoffs. But when you've got guys that have had that kind of success in football, does that bleed over into basketball for you, do you think?
Yeah, we Coach Gentry and we've got a really good relationship, and we want our guys to be able to compete as much as possible, and whether it's on the football field or whether basketball or our baseball coach Will Wakefield. We got a lot of guys that are playing multiple sports, and with the success that they've been able to have the last few seasons out on the gridiron, that's no coincidence that carries over on the hardwood. And those guys they've come to the point where they kind of expect to win whenever they set foot on the field or on the court. And and it's not just Jalen. We've got Aiden Donald that's at the East West All-Star game this week. That's been a contributing factor for us. Bryce Nizik is another kid that was a starting safety at football that's come in and he comes off the bench, really good 3-point shooter. And then Chasten Dixon is a transfer from actually Dixon County that started and played quite a bit at football at receiver and corner. And so, just working those guys back in and getting our rotations figured out and all that kind of stuff, something we've been doing the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it's definitely beneficial with the success they've had out of football to carry that over into basketball.
Coach, with the holidays coming up, that means that you're going to be traveling quite a bit to get some of these games. And you mentioned your schedule. Your schedule has been tough thus far, and it doesn't get much easier when you go out to Bartlett for Battle of the Bluff this weekend, and then you You go next weekend to Knoxville, just trying to get a lay of the land from corner to corner of the state. Apparently, as you'll go to the Knoxville Convention Center for the 5-Star Hoops Jam and play Knoxville Webb and Richmond out of North Carolina. What do these type of events, give you as a team, being able to play in other parts of the state against different teams that you may not play in the regular season?
We've gone the last 2 summers down to the Basketball Coaches Association of Tennessee, the team camp that they've hosted in Memphis the last 2 years. And I really feel like that's something that's been beneficial for our team. We've played a lot of West Tennessee teams. I mean, this summer we played Haywood, we played Bolivar, Knoxville, Fulton was down there, Memphis East. We played all 4 of those teams down there this summer. And our guys are be able to get exposed to different styles of play, different caliber of athletes from different parts of the state, I feel like it definitely gives them confidence. We play FACS Saturday night down at Bartlett, and they're the defending D2 single A state champion. I know they graduated a lot of guys, but they've got some really good incoming players. We're going up playing Knoxville Webb. Coach Norris does an incredible job up there. He's got a great program. That'll be a tough test for us. And then the Richmond, North Carolina team you talked about, they've got the reigning Gatorade Player of the Year from North Carolina, Paul McNeil. He's a 2024 6'5" wing, but he's got offers from Tennessee, Indiana, Clemson. So, I mean, going and playing in those types of games and those types of, atmospheres. And I think it's really good for our guys. A lot of this, you get invited to play in some of these things. Some teams kind of year in and year out get to go and participate. That's something that, due to the success our team had last year. And then also when you have a player of the caliber of Jared that, really helps from getting those opportunities. And so we wanted to take advantage of it.
Speaking with Jim McDowell, coach of the Lebanon Blue Devils, Class 4A state semifinalists a year ago, finished up 29-7. Here on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe over in Chapel Hill. Jim, you talk about, Jared and the performance that you guys put together last year. Have you seen from opponents, does it feel like there's a little bit more of a target on y'all's back after the way you guys finished up last year? And how do you feel like your guys are responding to that?
That's something we've talked about in the preseason. And I think it was really apparent, when we went over to Riverdale last week. Michael Voss, good friend of mine, he's got a good team, and they're a team last year that we beat at home. We beat them pretty handily, and I think our guys kind of didn't expect to get the level of intensity and play that we got when we went over there. They came out and played really well. And after they beat us, their locker room was, above ours, and we could hear them celebrating. And, I think that was really kind of made it apparent to our guys that when we go into play, we're the hunted now. We've got a bullseye on our back. And I do think that was good wake up call. You never want to lose, but going back the next day and watching the film and seeing how the first half, we didn't come out with the level of intensity that we needed to. We did pick it up in the second half and made a run, but just, dug ourselves too big of a hole. And so I think, after that and seeing that, I've seen a different level of focus and intensity last 2 ball games playing against Summit and Brentwood. So, and we're going to need that tomorrow night with Gallatin coming in. Coach Luna, they're 7-0. Coach Luna, a good friend of mine, he's been at Gallatin since I played at Lebanon in high school, and he'll be a Hall of Famer for sure. Over 600 wins, and their teams are tough. They're going to defend hard, and so we know tomorrow they've run through the rest of Wilson County. They beat Mount Juliet and Wilson Central and Green Hill, and so I guess we're the next one up for them. But hopefully we can bring that streak to a close.
Well, if you're going to lose a ball game, I guess November 29th is a good time to lose one.
Yeah, those November wake-up calls are good. You don't want to have those later in the year. Clarksville Academy, who we played in, that's our other loss. Matt Hoppy, coming from Brentwood Academy, they've got a really good team. I think they'll be really competitive in that Division II, small school class with good pasture. And then who we play this weekend, FACS. I think those would be three of the better teams there. And they've got Eddie Ricks, who Jared played AAU with, who's a Morehead State commit, and that was a tough game for us. But good, to be tested against a team like that early as well.
And just like you and the team kind of have a target on your back, I'm sure that people really come at Jared, the Tulsa signee, especially hard as well. How is he handling being at the top of everybody's scouting report?
I think he kind of got exposed to that last year when he was getting a lot of the notoriety and recognition that he did as his recruitment really amped up last season. That's something that he had to adjust to last year, and we dealt with some different things with that. But I really feel like he's matured quite a bit over the last year, just from whether it be student sections or opposing teams' fans or, just in general. I mean, as a 17, 18-year-old guy and, getting ready, get off the floor and people coming up asking for your autograph and things like that. I mean, that takes some getting used to. And so I do think he's embraced that, and he's really kind of approaching it with a different mindset, a more mature mindset. And he's really grown up a lot in the last year and stepped up, and he's a big time leader for us, both on and off the court.
Coach Jim McDowell of the Lebanon Blue Devils here with us on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe. Coach, before we get out of here, we just mentioned that we were talking about it before you got on with us, and it was our top story today because it's kind of a big deal. Have you seen the reports coming out of the Board of Control meeting and the change to the amateur rule? Do you have any initial knee-jerk thoughts on that, or does it sound like a good idea to be able to allow these players to get paid a little bit of money for their skill?
Well, that's something that through Jared's recruitment that I've really kind of been exposed to a lot more than previously. I actually was on the phone with Coach Conkle today at Tulsa, just kind of discussing what was instated today and trying to be on the forefront of that and trying to maximize that for any guys of our guys that might have that opportunity. Like it or not, I mean, it's here. So I think that you've got to embrace it, and you've got to really try and make it the most beneficial you can for your players and for your program. So, I'm not 100% sure what that's going to look like. I know that somebody like Jared might have some potential opportunities with that. And so we're just trying to make sure that whatever we do is we do it the right way, and that it's a seamless transition for him when he leaves here and he does go to Tulsa. So it's kind of a Wild West, fly by your seat of your pants type scenario. But Tennessee's the 22nd state to approve it. So I do feel like that was a good decision. I know I'm just reading a lot of the stuff that TWSBA wanted to be able to be able to govern that and make decisions on that, and institute the policies the way that they felt like would be best, as opposed to having it be taken out of their hands. And so I think it's here. And it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. But we're trying to learn and figure out as much as possible as soon as possible, so we do it the right way.
All right. Well, there you go. I think that is a very, very good way to look at it. We just say, you have to do what you have to do to take care of it. And then, we'll catch the rest of it on the back end, I guess. Right. But hey, whatever it takes. Coach, we appreciate you taking some time with us today, and look forward to catching you guys out on the hardwood throughout this holiday season and into January and February. We appreciate it, and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate all that you guys do for high school sports.
It's Jim McDowell on Coach's Corner, presented by From the Heart Cafe out in Chapel Hill. Again, Renee Hart and the fine folks out there keeping you fed and happy, whether it be breakfast catering, lunch, sandwiches, dinner, doesn't matter. She's got it. Just make sure to go check her out. It's just before you get to Henry Horton State Park, right there on the right if you're heading toward the park. If you're on your way out of the park, it's obviously on the left. Hey, listen,
after
man.
the park.
maybe you need to do that. I don't know, but thanks to Coach for joining us, and we are going to take a quick break. Couple of other headlines in high school sports before we get into it, but I wanted to talk a little Tennessee men's and women's basketball, as some unfortunate news coming out of Lady Vols camp today, and we'll talk about how the basketballs can keep it going. So stick around. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint, is back after this.
This is Chris Yao with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, three-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl Bananarama, so the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice.
Welcome back in. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid Tennessee Bone and Joint. Mo, before we get into any college stuff, I wanted to mention Jaravius Hall out of Columbia Central picking up an offer from the University of Tennessee. It appears that the defensive staff, at least for Josh Heupel, has been in Murray County recently and is putting that fence up.
They are certainly attempting to. The second offer to a young Murray County, budding standout in as many days, following Mount Pleasant's Jaden McClure earlier this week getting an offer. The freshman from Mount Pleasant, Jaravius, sophomore, and spoke to Ryan Callahan, Spring Hill graduate, and recruiting editor for GoVols247.com on this. And, even as the UT coaching staff is working on their 23 and 24 classes, they are still kind of looking ahead, obviously, and particularly looking in state. And that's obviously a goal for them, is to try to build that fence, like you said. And a couple of guys that have kind of stood out with their athleticism for their size and their projectables and that kind of thing. So certainly guys to have your eye on. And as you and I talk, Chris, it's particularly kind of stunning that their first offer comes from a Power 5 program of the magnitude of, the University of Tennessee. So, but this isn't the end for either of those guys. Obviously, now they got to kind of live up to that and continue trending in the direction that folks feel like they are. So,
well,
it's certainly fun to have that on your Twitter account.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And here's, what I think is something to take away from this, and you and I both realize it. I mean, Murray County has kind of been, because, these teams haven't made deep runs into the playoffs and, gotten the exposure that maybe maybe some other teams and players have. But we've been watching these guys, and individually, I mean, we're sitting here going, these guys can play. They can play at the next level. And then, you look at guys like Ethan Workman, like you feel like Ethan Workman from Richland can play at the next level, but he just doesn't get the love he needs. And so it's nice to finally see some Southern Middle Tennessee athletes getting the love that they need south of Williamson County.
Yeah, south of Williamson County. And, there has been a trend here over the past 10 or 15 years. I discussed this a few weeks back with Chris Pointer, the athletics director of Murray County Public Schools. There's been a trend and there's been a thought that you can't get there from here. And there are a number of athletes who have Murray County roots that wound up playing their high school ball elsewhere and getting those type offers because there was a thought process that they couldn't achieve that playing here. And so hopefully that's starting to kind of swing a little bit with these two guys and hopefully some other guys as well. So.
Yeah, when the flagship school of your home state is extending an offer in your freshman and sophomore seasons, you got to feel like that is at least a start in the right direction. So looking forward to seeing what those two young men do in the next couple of years. They're going to be fun to watch. Jaden McClure specifically, I mean, on both sides of the ball is just disgusting. And then Jaravius Hall has been a disruptive factor for the last 2 years for Columbia Central.
Absolutely. From the start of his freshman year. I mean,
yeah, he was never not a problem.
This is almost what took you so long for Jaravius, to be honest.
And he has a little bit of the pedigree bloodline too, being cousins with one Shaq Mason. So
doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it that at least gives you some idea of what can be if you are a college coach. Just saying.
And I'm going to tell you, if you talk to this kid, he's mature beyond his years. He's really fun to talk to. I've enjoyed every encounter I've had with him, and I believe he's going to live up to the hype. So.
I do too. Staying with the Tennessee theme here, Mo, we moved to the hardwood where we found out earlier today that Lady Vols no better Tamari Key is out for the year with a unique injury, I guess. She has blood clots in her lungs, and I'm assuming, is this the same thing that Trey Smith dealt with?
It sounds quite similar. I mean, I don't know enough about it to know, but yeah, it's I don't know how you find out about this, how it comes up, but it's really unfortunate. First for Tamari, obviously, and also for the Lady Vols who kind of have gotten off to a little bit of a slow start, relatively speaking. But yeah, apparently she missed her first game Tuesday, and this is I'm kind of speechless at it, how one university over like a 4-year period finds itself dealing with this with two of its top athletes, and you just hate to hear it, but hopefully they can get that taken care of and she can return to a normal way of life. And if basketball comes back, then that's even better. But you want to get this under control early for a young individual like that.
Yes, if this is what Trey Smith dealt with, the positive is you feel like it's something that's treatable and she can continue playing sports, whether it be basketball or whatever she may do in the future. She certainly has WNBA potential. You hope that, she is able to come back and play because, you want to go out on your terms as an athlete. That's just the nature of being an athlete. Going out on your terms is really what you want to do. And this is not the way you want to go out if you're Key. And, she is that leader. She's the on the floor leader for this team. And like you said, they've been struggling. So, how does Kelly Harper get this team back on track? Well, sometimes you have to use stuff like this, win one for the Gipper kind of thing.
Well, they were struggling with Tamari. They were 5-5, or they were 4-5 before beating Chattanooga by 30 on Tuesday. Without Tamari. So again, they've struggled. Top 5 to open the year, unranked. And so with or without Tamari Key, they had some work to do. They've obviously got more work to do now. But again, I really hesitate to look at Tamari Key's situation in basketball terms. I mean, that's just bigger than that.
Yeah, it is. Tennessee in their remaining non-conference games before getting into SEC play after the holidays. I think they have Wright State next, it's definitely Wright State schedule, not Tennessee schedule. They have Wright State next, but going forward, you're looking at UCF and Stanford. You got to go to Stanford, in a week.
10 days, December 18th. That ain't no fun.
And that's not a place you want to be going, especially without your best player.
At less than full throttle. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. So, and again, UT having struggled to this point, it's a tough matchup right there. So,
I will say this, the Virginia Tech loss 3 points at home. You at least feel like this team is trending in the right direction. Again, this is the only loss in the last 4 games. That loss to Gonzaga, still frustrating because not to blame it on officiating, but yeah, not to blame it on officiating because you shouldn't be in that situation, but it certainly wasn't the best officiated game that they've had.
It was not the best officiated game, but the early losses to Ohio State and Indiana, Indiana at TBA, those were kind of glaring as well. So, and that wasn't officiating.
No, neither of those were. Absolutely not. Jordan Horston is coming on lately. She's been the leading scorer in 4 of the last 5. And Rakay Jackson, who apparently has been held out recently.
Coach's decision.
So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but let's hope the coaches make a decision to get her back before they go to Palo Alto.
Yeah.
That would be really nice. But understand, you don't know what the team is dealing with in that situation. And Kelly, I'm going to trust Kelly Harper.
Mm-hmm.
And until she gives me a reason not to. So good luck to the Lady Vols. They got Wright State on Sunday, UCF at home on next Wednesday before heading out to Stanford. And then they start SEC play the 29th at Florida in the O-Dome or whatever it's called now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's called now. I don't think it's been the O-Dome in a minute, but
well,
yeah,
it will always be the O-Dome to me.
I understand. Yeah.
But on the men's side, Mo, ever since that loss here in Nashville, seems like this Tennessee basketball team has found its groove.
Well,
I think they've won 7 in a row.
And I think Julian Phillips has been a big part of that groove.
Yeah, one of the things that, Julian Phillips, who, I didn't really expect him to be the leading scorer this deep into the season, but it's been impressive watching him, kind of come into this program and be immediately effective.
Mm-hmm. And he's certainly been that.
He, along with Santiago Vescovi, who was the preseason first team All-SEC select, have really they've been the rocks that this team has to rely on. And here's the thing. They've got 4 players who are averaging double figures right now, Mo.
And that's, from a coach's standpoint, that's kind of what you look for, because that's really tough to prepare for. We were just talking with Jim McDowell from Lebanon about Jared Hall, who's averaging 31 and 10, which is pretty unbelievable at the high school level. But, as an opponent, you kind of know who you got to stop when somebody comes in with those kind of numbers. when you've got 4 double-digit scores, I mean,
it would be 5, but Zakai Ziegler averages 9.9.
Oh well, oh. so I mean, who are you focusing on? You know?
Yeah, and Zakai's coming off the bench. He hasn't started since game 2.
Well, since that game in Nashville specifically,
when Rick Barnes said you're not starting anymore.
Yeah,
which
and Ziegler said, "Fine, you know, whatever. You're gonna play me anyway."
And here's the thing. I promise you. I know this sounds crazy, but I had a conversation with my high school coach one time. He said, "Chris, I can't start you because you stink when you start. You're too hyped up. I put you in after the tip off, and you're fine, but I cannot start you." And I'm like, "Okay, that makes sense. You're right."
I've not played anything at any level, basically, but I always thought that it's starting maybe a little overrated. I mean, are you on the floor when it's over? Are you on the floor when it's time to win?
There you go.
And
is
I think that means
overrated?
a lot more.
Maybe, but is it cool to have your name called out? Yes.
Well, that's why you have to make sure that you've got a PA guy that announces subs and that kind of thing, which doesn't happen in football, I guess. But for basketball,
we did have a great PA guy when I was in school. So
yeah, but I mean, if you're in there when it's winning time, that's
all that matters.
That's what's important, I would think. So
yeah, and this particular team. Mo, you go down the top 6 scorers, and number 6 is when you get to Josiah Jordan James, who a lot of folks thought would be the guy to look for, but he's been out recently. And
has he been back since the battle for Atlantis?
I'm not. Let me look at yesterday's box score. Yes, he played 16 minutes, was 0 for 7 and 0 for 4 from 3-point land.
Oh. And still
1 point,
I mean,
2 turnovers, 3 fouls.
The fact that they're having the success that they're having with him at less than his best really bodes well for this team as well.
And that's kind of where I was going with that. It makes you look at this schedule and think, okay, this is a team that can make it happen, because Maryland is number 13 in the country. They're very good. This Sunday's game is going to be very difficult. It's in Brooklyn, so neutral site game on FS1 if you want to watch it at 3:30 tip. Then you got Arizona, who is obviously not the Arizona that we once knew, but it's still Arizona. And then they get Austin Peay before SEC play starts, and then SEC play. Not to I'm not gonna hit Coach Davis with any strays, but Ole Miss and Mississippi State don't strike fear into your heart specifically, nor does South Carolina or Vanderbilt for that matter, before you play Kentucky at home. So you're looking at a team that you get a win on Sunday, and you've got a lot of momentum heading into league play.
And that's a Maryland win to come after beating Kansas in the battle for Atlantis. So, I mean, that's a couple of pretty significant scalps right there if you're able to pull that one off.
Yeah, no question. So, Tennessee looking forward to this Sunday for both the future and to see if they can continue doing what they've been doing. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, Eric O'Flaherty will join us, talk a little Braves right after this on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. So you guys stick around with us. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
Hey folks, while we take a quick break from the show, I want to tell you about our friends over at Custom Stone Handlers in downtown Columbia. Ed Rich and his team at Custom Stone Handlers believe in leadership. And outside of the military, our greatest leader building platform is sports. Custom Stone Handlers proudly encourages young people to get in the game. You can contact them today at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic injuries, and our Ortho Quick walk-in service lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton, and we are honored to have our next guest, former Atlanta Braves reliever and now co-host of the 755 is Real podcast with David O'Brien, Eric O'Flaherty joining us now. Eric, welcome back.
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
How's things in the Great Pacific Northwest, Eric?
Cold. Yeah, we got some snow right now.
Oh,
kind of weather you guys got out there?
I guess at least it's not rain, right?
Yeah, I actually moved to the other side of the state, closer to where I grew up, so we're not in the rain as much all the time. But that drove us nuts.
I couldn't do it. I mean, we've been dealing with it for 4 days, and I'm over it.
Yeah, well, my wife grew up in it, so it didn't bother her. But we just got to a point where, once we had kids and they weren't going outside because it was raining. And you go through 4 or 5 months of just, 60% of the time it's raining. We couldn't handle it. So it's nice out here. We get a lot more sunshine.
Eric, I guess the winter meetings have pretty much broken up, and to much of the Braves fan base's chagrin, no news really came out of there other than the acquisition of Detroit Tigers reliever Joe Jimenez. In a trade that cost them Austin Henry Malloy, and it's kind of sent Braves Twitter into well, it's made them a Twitter, I guess. But I mean, as you followed this team, is it as frustrating for you as it is for most of the fan base that we don't know anything about what Alex Anthopoulos is going to do?
No, not at all. The team won 101 games last year. So there's not these massive holes to fill. I'd like to see him bring Dansby back. That's probably the biggest move that I feel like they need to make. Otherwise, if you look at the team, you got so many guys locked up long term on team friendly deals. Maybe left field. They could hope that Ozuna does something and turns it around and has a big year, and he's capable of hitting 35 when he's hot. So we'll see. But that's just kind of the way they operate, and it hasn't been a bad thing. It turns into, during the season, there's not the same kind of distractions because AA basically leaks nothing. And, I think that it can be frustrating as a fan to see what the Phillies are doing, what the Mets are doing. But you got to remember the Braves won the division again, and all their horses are coming back.
It's, that's really what you have to keep saying. It feels like you have to keep saying that to some people on the social media. So, I've kind of just been hands off with it. But it is interesting because you're right. When you look at everybody that's coming back, you don't really necessarily need a whole lot of pieces. Obviously, Kenley Jansen is headed to the Red Sox, but you mentioned Dansby and you mentioned Marcelo Ozuna. At some point, you probably expect to get Adam Duvall back. You've still got Eddie Rosario. Are those guys, going to play roles next year for the Atlanta Braves? Are they possible trade pieces? Where do you see those guys?
Well, I think they have the luxury of, I think it's a lot of times it feels like you have to fix all these things in the offseason, but they have some guys that they can give chances to and see, how spring training goes, how the first couple months of the season go, and then you can make a midseason trade too. But if Ozuna comes out and does what he did a few years ago, I know that his reputation's kind of taken a hit the last few years, but this guy's still got crazy pop. And when he's locked in, there's really nowhere to pitch him with his bat speed. It's not something you want to bank on, but it's the same thing at shortstop. They could give Vaughn a try at shortstop, and he's working with Wash, who I watched Marcus Semien have one of the most challenging seasons I've ever seen at shortstop when I was with Oakland. And Wash basically got hired to work with him and get him right. And Wash followed him around day in, day out. I mean, he was calling his name every day. You could see it wearing on Marcus, but look at the shortstop it turned him into. So if there's questions about whether Grissom can play shortstop or not, he's working with Wash. Wash can work some magic. So you got that kind of as a backup plan. You got Arcia. Left field, you got a few guys you can try out. And, I'd like to see him make some moves too, just like everybody else. But there's not this drastic, gaping hole that they need to fix. They won 101 games.
Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Eric, explain to me the rationale that Vaughn Grissom isn't ready to play shortstop. How do we know?
I don't know it. I was really impressed with the at-bats he had last year. I never saw him play shortstop.
Know that he's not ready.
Right. I think it's a sign that you got him working with Wash, that there's some work to do, but he might be doing that anyway. Mm-hmm. But I didn't hear anything terrible about his defense when he was coming up. Dave was raving about him, talking about what a prospect he was and the energy he had and the attitude and the way he plays. And he came up and raked right away. So, I've kind of been asking myself the same question. Obviously, I'd like to have Dansby back because he's got some intangibles you just can't replace. But, not having seen Vaughn ever play shortstop, it's hard to knock the guy at shortstop.
Okay, then I feel a little bit better if a former major leaguer has the same opinion about a situation that I have. That
right.
I'm not saying that gives me credibility, but it makes me feel better. So thanks for kind of validating me there. I appreciate that. Again, as you've said, this team won 101 games last year. There aren't a whole lot of holes, but there are some things that, when we get to spring training, we got to figure out, if Mike Soroka is healthy, where does he fall into that rotation, or does he fall into the rotation?
Oh yeah. If he's right, he's an ace. I think it's tough to count on because of what he's been through. And there's, it's kind of a one-of-one situation, a pitcher coming back from two Achilles. There's not too many guys to compare him to. We had him on our podcast maybe a month ago, and he said he feels great. He learned a lot about his delivery and kind of things he needed to change. And that was one of the breaks that he had. It wasn't necessarily even as much about the injury he had. He had a little minor, I think, got hit with a comeback or something like that, but he wound up taking 3 weeks for it. He went down and worked with a guy that got deep into all the biomechanics and stuff. And it looked like, to him that he was putting way too much pressure on that Achilles, the way his mechanics were set up. So he tried to change that and correct that. But if that guy's healthy, it's so easy in baseball to forget how good somebody is and what they're capable of and what they've done. If he's healthy, he might, he's probably your number one. if he's right.
Mhm.
And the question is just, how healthy is he going to come back, and are those surgeries going to affect his mechanics? I think anytime you're coming back from a major injury like that first year back's not going to be pretty. You saw that with Acuna. But I would definitely bank on, if Soroka's healthy, playing a major role, not like a number 4 or 5. He's pitching game 1 or 2 of the playoffs.
You don't come by the nickname Maple Maddox just by chance.
No. No, and that's the thing, is he can pitch. If his stuff's not quite there, he doesn't get by on velocity. He's got really tight movement on his sinker, and he's got an unbelievable slider, and he's smart. So I would expect, even if he's not, coming back with the exact same repertoire, he can make up for it with what he's got up top.
Now that's interesting because, this team could legitimately have 3 number 1s. And again, like you said, not just with what we saw with Ronald Acuna, but what we saw with Charlie Morton coming off injury. Yeah. He wasn't 100%. If you get 100% out of Charlie Morton next year, and you've got Spencer Strider who comes back and gives you what he gives you, Max Fried, Mike Soroka, this could be the best rotation in baseball.
And you still ain't mentioned Kyle Wright.
Still haven't mentioned Kyle Wright, 20-game winner. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's what, that's the stuff you have to look at, is they've got some things that are kind of up in the air a little bit, but you can't go out and sign Verlander and then not have space for Soroka if he comes back healthy. There's certain moves you can't go make and block certain guys that could wind up helping your team a ton and cost a lot less.
Yeah. That's kind of it. That's really one of the frustrating parts, is because, the Braves have so many really good pieces that are still kind of what ifs, but boy, if you get even 3/4 of what they're capable of, they're as good as most other players in the major leagues. And that is a testament to what this team has built over the last 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, if you've looked at some of the starting pitchers that have gotten signed, if you're worried about that 5 spot, I'll take 70% of Soroka over everybody except DeGrom and Verlander. The guys that are going around, it's Soroka at 70%, still 3, 4, 5 starter, and he's gonna deal.
Is there any chance that the Braves could find a way to get Brian Reynolds?
I don't know. I mean, I don't dig too far into.
Would they want to?
Where'd you put him?
Well, I would assume you would have to get rid of some of your left field talent.
Yeah.
That's the only thing is, but boy, Brian Reynolds, and even though he's only got 1 year on his deal, it would be tough, but man, that would almost put your lineup into another dimension.
Yeah. I think a healthy Acuna puts it, into another dimension too. And they didn't have Ozzie for a large portion of the year last year.
And he will be back for sure.
Yeah. We lose Mo.
There he is.
Oh, there we got him.
Hey, sorry about that.
Go ahead, Mo.
No, I missed whatever the conversation was regarding Brian Reynolds. But I mean, again, you've still got Adam Duvall. And Adam Duvall is a Gold Glove defensive outfielder who's capable of 30+ bombs. So, I mean, maybe as EOF was saying about the starting pitching situation, maybe you don't want to lock yourself into a Brian Reynolds when you've got the possibility of an Adam Duvall coming back, who what he's capable of, what he brings to the clubhouse as well. I mean, He's really been a great fit since he's been in Atlanta, and that's been one of his redeeming qualities, I think. So maybe as you look at this roster, maybe you just bank on Duvall getting back rather than bringing in a Brian Reynolds. Although I'd love to see the former Brentwood High and Vanderbilt stand out in Atlanta. So,
yeah, it's all about the price. It's all about what you're giving up. And it used to be, you were willing to give up elite prospects for known major league talent, but now prospects are the golden currency. I think there's been too many trades over the past few years where a guy has looked like a pretty good prospect and gotten maybe a chance or two in the big leagues, and then you give up on him and he goes off to another team and turns into a superstar, and you had a guy for a year. I think that's every team's afraid of getting burned like that now.
Yeah, there's no question.
And every team is afraid of getting burned like that, and every team is probably afraid of getting burned by AA as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. It's hard when you have rarely lost to get people to buy what you're selling.
Yeah.
It's like, so wait a minute. This deal can't be good for me.
Yeah.
This is not going to work out for me. And I don't even know why I'm doing this, but we're going to do it.
Yep.
Eric, obviously you spent time in a lot of bullpens. This Braves bullpen, and I'm just going to go down the list of what I see in front of me right now. Dennis Santana, Nick Anderson, Kirby Yates, Dylan Lee, Colin McHugh, Joe Jimenez, AJ Minter, and Raciel Iglesias. That's pretty freaking legit.
I was so impressed with Iglesias last year. He has a great track record, but when he came into games, he just didn't miss the glove, and he pitched in huge situations. And you forget the guy was a closer, in his whole career because he's backing up Kenley. But I wouldn't be afraid at all to throw him into the closer's role, Minter in the 8th, and just filter it all down from there. I don't know. I don't know Luke Jackson's status, if they're bringing him back on a cheap deal or if he got tendered. I haven't been paying too much attention, but that's another guy, coming back from Tommy John that could be pretty damn good and important for you.
I would think, EOF, that as impressive as Iglesias was on the mound for the Braves, the fact that, he accepted his role, because like you said, he had been a closer with the Angels, and he came over here and he fell into that 8th inning and just kept dealing.
Yep.
And wasn't worried about when he came into the game. And when you are a closer, I would imagine you think you're a closer regardless of where you are. So I would guess that's got to kind of be a little bit of an adjustment to suddenly not be getting the 9th.
Yeah. For me, setup is the best role in baseball, because you know when you're going to pitch. You got the 8th inning, but if you get in trouble, you got the team's best pitcher, relief pitcher coming in right behind you to bail you out of jams. Closer, you're on your own. You got to get it done. So for me, I think that would maybe take a little pressure off him. And he still had a pretty defined role, but that's usually what closers struggle with the most, is getting thrown into. They have a very structured routine. It's very specific. They stretch at the same time. They do everything the same. You get thrown back in the 7th and 8th. Some days you might pitch the 6th. It might just happen, So all of a sudden you're going from stretching in the 5th, 6th, 7th inning, somewhere in there, wherever you're comfortable. Shoot, I got to be ready. I got to start warming up in the 4th. And then your mind's on the clock that whole time. So a lot of guys struggle with that. It's just added stress. A lot of guys struggle with that, but they also, it's an ego hit, or it's an ego thing. Everybody likes being the closer, and you get confidence from being the closer because the other team knows you're the closer. You come in and feel good about yourself. And I think a lot of guys that won't accept that role, for me, it's not really a demotion. We just got somebody else we're having close, but it's really hard not to appear selfish when you won't go to a winning team and throw the 8th. And any guy that does, or at least you think that's common sense, but any guy that does, I always think it's cool and admire that they just, no attitude, no drama. Yep, I'll throw the 8th, and then they go out and deal.
Speaking of clocks, the pitch clock, how do you feel about that?
I love it. I was never slow, It's like,
you're like, I'm not even worried about it.
Just like read the swing, get on the mound. You get a sign if you don't like it, shake to the one you want. But they got to speed the game up some way. And some guys just drag their feet and have their whole routine. I think Kenley's actually one guy. Kenley's slow. He's going to have to speed it up. But for me, it wouldn't have been any problem.
And with that in mind, as much as we loved having Kenley last year, that might be best that he's doing his thing somewhere else next year, because that's going to be an adjustment for him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think so. There's the reason the guys don't do it to drag the game out, that they have their routine and they want to get their thoughts in order. And that's the pace that works for them. Like the Baez guy that was with the Dodgers forever, it was like a minute between pitches. He'd have a 15-minute, 15-pitch inning. It's like, guys, but that's what locks him in. For me, I was trying not to think. If I started getting in my head and thinking, then I was in trouble. But if I just kind of blacked out and threw whatever pitch the catcher put down, then I could execute. So I was trying to stay out of that space. So it worked well for me, and I'd have no problem with it. The faster the better.
Don't think you only hurt the team.
Yep.
There you go. Eric O'Flaherty, former Braves reliever and now co-host with David O'Brien on the 755 is Real podcast, joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Eric, we appreciate your time so much, man. We look forward to hearing more and looking forward to spring training.
Yep, no problem, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Sir.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, we take a break now. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about some moves around the major leagues. So stick around. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint, is back after this.
This holiday season, the largest lantern event in the country returns to Nashville Zoo. After sunset, come see more than 1,000 Chinese lanterns. All new designs including mythical beasts, a fantastical North Pole village, even a dragon soaring over your head. Welcome back to Zoo Illumination at Nashville Zoo. Bigger, brighter, and better than ever.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint. Chris Yao alongside Mo Patton, and we are in our final segment of the day. Mo, some other major league moves of note.
Mm-hmm.
We just mentioned Kenley Jansen's headed to the Red Sox. Were you surprised at the Aaron Judge deal?
A little bit. I mean, I was surprised to see him go back, but it's tough to turn down 360.
All right. I'm gonna try to repeat this story best I can.
Mm-hmm.
I won't get it exactly right, and all the numbers won't be right, but it's pretty close. I was watching MLB Network, and the stat was that there have only been like 40-something players who have been as heavy as Aaron Judge. Now, obviously, he's 6'7". It's a little bit different. He's 280-something pounds.
Mm-hmm. 282.
He's 282.
Is what he's listed at.
Which means probably 290.
Well, I think these are listed weights that you're getting ready to reference. Now, go ahead.
You've seen this, though.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so 270 something is the cutoff here, and only one person who's ever played at 35, 36, or 37 years old has hit a home run, and it's Bartolo Colon.
Big Sexy.
Now, if you're the Yankees, do you feel like this is what it's going to take to get the deal done, and we would rather have him for 5 years than not have him at all?
Well, I think, one, that not everybody's 270 or 280 is created equally.
And I don't think his is.
And I think it looks a lot different on 6'7" than it does on 6'3" or 5'10" or whatever else. I think also, you're talking about a guy who right now, this past year, I don't know how many starts he made in center field, but I mean, you're talking about an athlete at 6'7", 282. And, you could move him to a corner, you could move him or back to right, you could move him to a corner, you could move him to first base, you could move him to DH, and it's not necessarily going to affect his offense, which is what he's out there for. He just hit 62 home runs. So
it would be hard not to re-sign the guy who broke your franchise record for home runs in a season, right?
Yeah.
It'd be real difficult.
And I mean, everything that you heard last year about Aaron Judge was if there has been a New York Yankee, maybe over the last 10 years or whatever, he is it.
He's the embodiment of the
he's
Yankee.
the embodiment of the New York Yankees. I mean, and I think that they were going to do whatever it took to bring back the embodiment of their franchise. And I think it would have been embarrassing to some degree had they not.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just glad he's not, going to be in the NL West. Would have to deal with him. But yeah, it is a situation where I think this guy's going to end up, I don't think he's going to play the last 2 years of this deal, at least not to the he's going to be a DH kind of guy. And look, Aaron Judge as a DH is probably better than 60% of DHs out there.
It's probably better than whatever they had at DH right now.
Probably. And so that's, I mean, I think it's a solid deal for the Yankees, and kudos to them for making it happen. Elsewhere, Wilson Contreras to the Cardinals. That's frustrating.
It's frustrating, and the numbers, 5 years, 87.5, are kind of frustrating.
If you're a Cubs fan, you've got to be mad that you didn't get something for him.
Well, sure.
I mean, what were the Cubs thinking, not trying to get rid of this guy? Trading. Something.
You're also mad that he's going downstate, basically.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and now he's a Cardinal. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and we got to see him however many games. Yeah.
What are the Cubs doing?
Other than in the Dansby Swanson sweepstakes, I don't really know.
And why?
I don't
why
understand.
Are you in the Dansby Swanson sweepstakes at this point?
I don't know. I mean,
and if you're Dansby Swanson, why hell would you consider the Cubs?
Well, because his soon-to-be wife plays soccer there.
I don't know, man.
Now, I would think that they could both afford plane tickets. They could probably afford Wheels Up, but I mean, I don't guess there's anything wrong with being in the same city.
No, and if that's hey, look. Far be it from me to hate on someone for wanting to be close to their significant other. I don't blame them at all. But I mean, it's your career you're talking about here, man. I mean, and look, you're gonna do you. Dansby is not gonna be a Hall of Famer. We know that, right? So it's not that doesn't really matter. But boy, it just would seem weird to go to a team that just stinks and isn't trying to get better.
Well, I mean, he's got his ring.
He's got his ring. You're right. You're right about that.
He's got his ring. He might as well get his money, and he's getting ready to put on a more important ring, I guess. So,
I don't know, man.
I don't get it. I mean, I'd love to see Dansby back in Atlanta with the whole Vandy Boy situation and what he brings, but
I'm 50-50, but yeah.
I'm after last offseason and everything that we went through with Freddie Freeman and that kind of thing, and Dansby kind of gives me some mini Freddie vibes, and I can kind of do without all that tightness, really. So, yeah, I'm 50-50. I mean, if he's back, he's back. If he's gone, we're still going to find somebody to play shortstop, and
we're not going to go out there without one.
No, we're not. We're still going to win 90, 95, 100 games and be a factor in the postseason, whether Dansby's there or not. Dansby does not keep this team from being an NL East championship caliber team.
No, he doesn't. All right. Well, there you have it. That is the Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Tomorrow we have Doug Scopel and Matt Brown from Extra Points coming at you. So Come back with us at 2:00 tomorrow. We'll get you ready for the weekend and everything that goes with it. Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, Mo Patton, Chris Yao, Justin Kulik saying so long until then.